Hey, thank you so much for being Vase. Hey, hello everyone. This is Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, and I love doing this where we have a show in Clubhouse. The sound from Clubhouse, I'm going to show for those watching the stream. Typically, the sound is coming from my little iPad, and what's interesting is the Clubhouse is where the conversation is happening, and then we'll stream. Dr. Laura, when your video comes up, I'm happy to put you into the stream as well. Then we stream as well. And so what we're doing is we're going live on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I'll take questions from the chat, and also from the various social media. And there was a group that I join on Saturdays, and they come up with a particular word or phrase to talk about every day. And so what I'd like to have that I like to bring that here, and that is, Dr. Laura, if you're hearing an echo, what I'd suggest is turn off the sound from StreamYard, or certainly the mic. Turn off the mic from StreamYard. And I see you now. Let me bring you into the stream. Hello, you look awesome. Nice to see you. So what I'd like you to think about is, and maybe comment, and I could start because I'll get things going. It's a group that I'm part of. It's every Saturday. It's called Friends of Peter, and they bring up a term. And then what I do is I try to take that term and interpret it in terms of what does it mean for me? What does it mean from a credibility perspective? What does it mean in terms of sharing? And the term today, when I first heard it, I was called like the second person up, and the term was times are changing. And it was early in the morning for me. I hadn't had my cup of coffee. I was called upon. I'm like, I got nothing. I can other people go, and then I'll fit it into the end, because the nothing for me in terms of I didn't get it is I was living in a box. Like we all live in this box, and the box I was living in is those are the words, times are changing. What does it mean that times are changing? It seems so obvious to me that I had nothing. I really had no new things to add. And then about 20 or 30 minutes into it, after hearing 5 to 7 people go, it just clicked in my head. The box I was living in was, hey, interpret times are changing. What I really should have been thinking about is not that. What I should have been thinking about is, how does times are changing affect us? And as soon as I said, oh, of course, now I got it. So let me, if you don't mind, I'm just going to share a little bit. And the thing that's interesting is, if you're an entrepreneur, by definition, times are changing. You're looking for opportunity for life to present areas where people need things, and you come in, you create a company, and then there's enough of a demand and you make money, and that's what entrepreneurs do. We recognize times are changing and there are holes and gaps in the world that we can fill. That's what entrepreneurs do. It's just natural. Jorge, it's what happens in Silicon Valley all the time, right? It's just natural. What most of the education system does is train us to try to look for the static quo. Like we get into a routine and we want that routine to be there forever. Like the political system that's in place. Oh, we like the routine. Let's keep it. We don't have to do anything to keep it going. We're just assuming it's there forever. Our economic value, the money we make, like we get into these areas where we want consistency, and we don't recognize that the most important thing you could do in terms of living life is recognizing that life is continually changing, and your focus should be, what is that framework, that underlying framework that you're living with? And to me, it's about living credibly, that you can move forward with. And so anyhow, what I was thinking about was simply one of the things that I did recently is I did this week, I was interviewed, and it was a Medium article, and it focused on the 5 things you need to do to be a thought leader. And so it's such a long thing. It's harder to post here. I'll post it in the chat on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube when you guys are chatting. And it was one of those things that it got me thinking about. There were 5 C's, right? So I'll share the 5 C's. Clearly, credibility is one. Consistency is another. Clarity is probably credibility. Clarity is right up there. Curiosity and courage. And I'm just wondering if change needs to be part of that. I don't know any of that stuff. Jorge, why don't you come on, introduce yourself, say hello, and let's also invite other people to join us. So I will be doing that now as I'm now listening to you.
Well, I will ask you to repeat the 5 C's: credibility, curiosity,
clarity, consistency, and courage.
Okay. Well, let me introduce myself and we get into that subject. I am Jorge Zavala. I live in the Silicon Valley in the last 19 years. I am from Mexico City, and I have been involved in how to develop the minimum viable mindset for the people in how you create new ventures or creative innovation. One of the things I really love is how to start new things, and that is very close related to the credibility nation. You need to believe yourself that you are able to create new things, and how you face that is one of the very hard parts, because when you create new things, what happens? Everybody say you are crazy. Everybody say that is not possible to be done. And all the times, as you say in the education, they discourage you, not help you, don't foster you to make things happen. In that way, that's one of the things I really love to enjoy, how you create your mindset to be ready to be rejected, to be into the hard part. In the meantime, that you succeed, because when your idea that everybody challenge and say that it's not going to work, start working, the way of living change completely. And that is one of the very interesting areas that I love to be involved with. And I enjoy living here in the Silicon Valley. I do consulting, and now I am become, and for the 10th time, I started a new company. I am building a startup that is called Sharing Chart. That is how you can monetize your knowledge and experience. That, as everybody knows, in the service, in the consulting, is one of the hardest things that you can do.
What's the name of the company again?
Sharing Chart. Sharing, to share things, share, because these things is how you manage small things that are going to be helping to trigger great ideas.
Fascinating. Huh. That's pretty cool. Feel free to send a link wherever you think it's appropriate, if it's that time to do that.
It's not yet. We are very close to have the minimum viable product ready for launching, and in a couple of weeks, I will share that within this with our audience.
Gotcha. Fantastic. Delania, nice to see you. Adrian, welcome to the house. And Dr. Laura, how are you doing? Are you ready to come on the air, or are you still figuring out how to make all this fun stuff work? Not yet. We have an echo.
How's this?
Oh, good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Then it's only an echo on my end when I have my mic. It's all good?
You're good.
Okay, because I am mute on LinkedIn, and I'm trying to find this on Facebook. I can't, on Facebook, I can't so far. And so, yeah, this is great. I think, I'm so looking forward to this morning. I gotta tell you.
By the way, thank you. This warms my heart.
Well, I'm sitting in my saboteurs and everything right now with Credibility Nation. I'm just processing how valid and useful it is, and I'm not even, I'm just barely affiliated with it, and how important it is for me to there's just so many terms that I'm all about the Brene Brown right now. She's just I got a little girl crush going, and she's just and alongside consistent. You're like akin with her. You share the same stage. What? Twice. And there's just things that fall into alignment, and it's hard for me to give specific examples, primarily because I'm still struggling to see the forest from the trees. So for me to give it's tough to give an example right now in that regard. So I'm going to busy myself because I'm a tasker. I think you might understand what that means. I'm going to ping and invite some folks and continue to make some comments. And when the spirit moves me, I will be more than happy to raise my hand and indicate if I'm allowed to speak or if I'm invited to speak.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Adrian, are you ready to say hi yet? I see you, but the mic is muted. Okay. So I'm hearing something.
Yeah, I got to get back there in a second.
Okay. It's interesting. Something didn't happen yesterday, and I think it didn't happen yesterday because I believe I was waiting for this room. So let me tell you something I do. For those who, and I'll make sure that I start putting in the links. So I'll share that also with you. The link on Facebook. Actually, I think I have a web page now where I share all the links. I'll have to make sure I have that in my fingertips. But I'll put in the chat that we have, Dr. Laura. I'll put in the link to Facebook. What I do once a week, and it's typically Friday, and I didn't do it yesterday, is I take in a credibility question and I answer it in 10 minutes and I put that on YouTube. And what I've been doing recently is just also streaming it at the same time, just so people could, the stream is much longer than just the question itself. And my team then goes in and adds the B-roll and cleans stuff up. And I've had 50 plus answers to credibility questions. And because I didn't come up with one yesterday, I mean, I've got a bunch in queue, but what I'll say to you is if you have a credibility question that you want answered, I'd be honored. And particularly the really cool part is if you wanted to ask the question in video and send it to me, what'll happen is when my team does all the B-roll stuff, I'll make sure they actually incorporate your question. So that's kind of fun. So you guys have a credibility question that we should be thinking about?
Yes.
Jorge, you're thinking about one, Laura?
Do I come off here?
It's interesting. I think what happens is, by the way, we're always figuring out the technology. Typically, the unmute you want to do will be from Clubhouse, because that's where we want the sound coming.
Okay, so
the problem is
that's the problem because I'm on my computer with Club Deck, and so it's taking in. So yeah. So can you hear me now?
I could hear you now. What I don't know, and we'll have to come back and check later. So I could hear you, but it's not from here. It's from my computer. So what I'm curious about will be when we watch the stream. If somebody's watching it on Facebook or Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube, I'm curious if you can hear Dr. Laura well enough, because it's coming from my computer and I don't know if my mic is picking it up. So that would be cool I know technology is wonderful. So you're going to play for a little bit and figure it out?
I listen to you very well in LinkedIn.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so let me place in LinkedIn some of the links that I had mentioned, and I'm going to say, Jorge, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have some credibility question? Oh, good. Tapas, I can listen. Tapas, thank you for saying that. Just hang out for 1 second. Laura, could you try speaking again where you did it not through Clubhouse, but through the computer?
Sure. I'm on StreamYard right now. I can also try on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook, which do I have YouTube called up? I have LinkedIn and Facebook called up as well.
Got it. Thank you. Tapas, did you hear Dr. Laura when she just spoke? And so make sure there might be a tiny delay on LinkedIn. So make sure we hear about that. As soon as I hear back from him, he did originally say, yay, I can listen to all. He said he's on LinkedIn on his tablet, but he didn't respond back to this. So like I say, I don't know if there's a delay or not. So
don't you love the idea of this possibility of learning? I mean, we're not getting it right. I mean, I don't want to be right. I want to be happy, and I don't want to be right. I want to get it right. And there's beauty in the process of unraveling, unveiling, unwrapping, and in becoming that. Gosh, yeah, credibility and curiosity with teams.
That's interesting. I got to ask this question.
I don't know. Pardon?
You said something interesting, and maybe that's the right question. Is there always a get it right? I mean, is there a right?
I think the only way I can get it right is if I'm in the part of the process of continuing to learn and to loud vehicles, continuing on the journey of what's to be, what's going to happen next. And no matter what happens, to have that trust that I know I don't know it all. I don't want to. What's the point? You know, I was reading this quote by Mark Twain, and it's the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. And I really was processing. I was processing that last part, and just this morning I came to realize I haven't had that second day, and I'm glad I haven't, because once I thought I reached it when I want to be a singer on stage like Annie. I'm 7 years old. Okay, did that. I want to be a gymnast like Mary Lou. I was in high school. I was captain of my senior. I wasn't a great gymnast. Well, I was captain because I was an encourager. I was a motivator. I was a gymnast. Okay, fine. I want to be a doctor. Okay, so I walked across that stage, did it, done that. Another badge. With every single additional experience, that's another day that I'm finding out why. I want to be a motivator. I want to create aha moments for people to say, oh, now I get it. Did I really get it? Because each time I learn something, I get more of it. So I'm more full up and I'm more filled up and I'm more of it. And so I suppose my legacy that when I find out why will be my legacy, but that won't be determined until after I'm gone. So I may never have that second day. And that's okay. I don't want to have it finite. Because really, what do we have is that just it's an existential question, I suppose. And there is no right or wrong. It's just, I don't want to be right. I want to get it right. And for me to get it right, it means to listen and to be part of that process as it unfolds.
That's an interesting. That's an interesting response. Oh, by the way, Tapas is saying that he's hearing you well. So, by the way, this is really amazing. At some point in time, typically the sound from Clubhouse comes from this. What Tapas is saying is the sound when you're speaking is coming from my computer, which is here. And technology is really interesting. I'm so glad you responded.
I am on Club Deck, so I'm on Clubhouse from the computer, not on my phone. So that's interesting as well. So I have LinkedIn, and I have StreamYard, and I have Facebook in the back.
Yeah, it's so amazing.
Well, we can get from the technology side to the very interesting subject about learning in the right way. And I love that question.
What I have an opinion on right for a couple of different reasons. But Jorge, did you want to jump in first? Oh, you're on mute on Clubhouse. So if you could unmute.
Okay, I am here now.
All right, awesome. Yes, you are.
Okay. Yeah, Tapas is telling us that I learned by asking questions using the Socratic method. That is very interesting. But the point that Laura is telling us is, do we learn the right things at the right time? And usually when you're learning, you need to find out that I have in mind that we have a 3-cycle times. When you learn, first you need to get some awareness to understand what are you talking about. Then you have a second stage where you are assimilating and try to understand, and is where you digest that. And the best way to learn that is by reading some examples or some success cases or some similar situations. And when you really know that you learn is when you are able to apply whatever you grab it as a knowledge, and you modify and adapt to the conditions that you are looking for. And that is the performance side, the performance stage. In that sense, is awareness, is understanding, and performing. And usually, one of the things that I see that a lot of people, they are mainly in the awareness. They listen a lecture and they feel that they learn. And that's not true. Is you have awareness, you have a little knowledge about the subject, but you need to prove to yourself that that knowledge you can transform into action, into results, into achievements. And that happens in the third stage. What do you think about that?
I think you got really deep. Huh.
Well, that is my reflection of giving thousands of workshops where you bring people and they ask you for the notes, they ask you for the presentation, you produce some materials, and they take it. And are you ever there to call them 3 months later and say, what did you use? How did you use the knowledge that I provided? And 99% of the times, the people even don't recall what are you talking about.
Oh, can I say yes in so many different ways? What's fascinating to me, thank you for that, is one of the superpowers that I didn't know I had that came out of interviewing 500 thought leaders on credibility is clarity. And it's sitting with somebody and listening to them speak, seeing what they're passionate about, and in essence, coming up with the words that are in alignment with the frequency of how they show up in the world. And so I call this that CPOP, that customer point of possibilities. And I've done this now over 1,000 times. And Jorge, the most interesting part is when I sit with somebody, I don't actually magically say, this is you, these are your 4 words. By the way, mine is leaders living their values and making a difference. So I'm actually using their words out loud, and that's the name of the show, right? And so when I listen to somebody and I share with them, what's really interesting, Jorge, is that when they go, oh my God, this is really me. This is who I am. This is how I show up. And for many people, it might be the first time in their lives that they're feeling the frequency of who they are in such a short number of words. And then it gets really interesting. 90% of those people forget it somewhere between 2 hours and 2 weeks. Not even a quarter from now, Jorge. 2 hours to 2 weeks. And that's a very interesting question to me, is why does that happen? Right. And I think it's that belief of an understanding of who you are. Right. Where I think I've said this so many times to different people, you can't be credible externally till you're credible internally. And you have to hear your own voice and be able to articulate your own voice externally. And that is something you could do with your CPOP. And so when I get on the phone or Zoom with somebody, you know, whether it's a couple weeks or a couple months or even a year later, I'll just say, hey, what's your CPOP? And 90% of the time they could go, yeah, I really loved what you and I did together, but I can't remember what it was. Laura, you had said something, but I can't. I'm seeing your good. Yeah. Okay.
It's the feeling. It's the feeling that we have. I don't. Okay, when it comes down to the brain or the body, it's I don't know. Let me think about that. Well, tell you what. All of the poor decision-making experiences that I've had, or make decisions, results based on the decisions that I've made, were using my brain. And I mean that only to the extent that, yes, logical reasoning, cognition, definitely important. However, when it comes down to it, I don't know, this just doesn't feel right. I don't know, my gut's telling me something that's not sitting right in my gut. So I want to think about it. I'm not a human thinking, I'm a human being. And I'm not a human doing, because I can do, and I can think my way out of anything. I can think the muck out of anything. Okay, I've done it. But then when it comes down to the body, because the body keeps the score. And even if I don't remember exactly what someone says, I sure as heck can remember how I felt. They didn't make me feel anything. It's how I felt. The reverberation, the resonance, the energy, the vibration. I don't know what it is. It could get all woo-woo, and then all the chakras. I don't need to go into that. It's a whole nother room, a whole nother club. All I know is that I trust my body, my gut. I don't know, it doesn't feel right. I know everything. It's just, I put the pros and the cons down, and everything's on paper, and the numbers, and there it is, you know, and I want to be right. I want to make the right decision. It doesn't feel right. Go with your gut. We don't say go with your mind. Go with your brain. We never say that.
No, we don't. Why don't we?
Because
or we sometimes say go with your heart. I got that.
Yeah, but your heart doesn't think. Your heart is an automatic muscle. Your brain, I mean, it's an autonomic. It just goes. It does. Before we had cognition, our heart just went.
Where did you get the expression, I'm not a human being, I'm a human doing? Was that from somebody else, or did you just come up with that?
Oh no, nothing that I don't come up with any of this on my own. I hear it from somebody. Because that's the thing. I learn really well. I listen really well. When I stop talking long enough, is that it's my superpower is to integrate what's relevant and to listen for the subtle nuances of how people express themselves, and then come to understand through, I want to say investigation. Like, I'm a scientist, I'm a social scientist and behavioral when it comes down to it. And to investigate, it sounds so researchy, because it is. We're all researching each other at this moment right now, to really examine and explore, and to sit with and allow for the unfolding of how someone shows you who they are. And sometimes that's with words. Sometimes that's with behavior. Sometimes that's, I don't even know what else. It's, I mean, the fact that we're human beings. Did I make that up? No, I was told that when I was born over in school. Did I make that up? No, you're a human being. Wait, did I come up with that? No, I'm a blah, 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 blah. If that were the case, then everybody was saying blah, 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 blah. Not saying the blah, 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 blah. I hope that helps.
No, I
love that idea of the human beings. Yesterday, I was in a group discussion. I am part of a group here in Silicon Valley that is known as a hacker dojo. Hacker Dojo is a co-working, networking community that it encourages that you get there to perform things. They have a place where you can build things with using 3D printing, or you can develop software, or you can do some kind of artistic activities. And we were talking about how to develop a capability that you have a meeting, and at the very end of that meeting, you execute something, you create something. It's not just to have a chat, have a word, a memo, some phrase. Is you physically build something. It's a maker space in some way. And that is something that I am trying to really, I left the place with that idea in mind, how we should be promoters of making things happen, and not just to thinking about making things happen. And that's a huge difference, because we're full of people that we have a discussion, we say we solve the problem, everybody goes out, and nothing happens after that. And the thing is, we need to make things happen, and that things happens when you really deliver something. That could be a product, could be a piece of art, but also when you're discussing how to solve problems and create a plan and start to execute it in the way that you start integrating people, putting resources, generating actions, creating a website, you start to create the synergy that make things happen. And that is very much aligned in the things that you're describing, Laura. I love that, where, how you say that, where doing beings or doing humans, how was that?
Oh, Laura, it's I hear you speaking, or no, I see you but not hear you at the moment. It was I'm not a human being, I'm a human doing, is what she said.
I'm not speaking right now. I wasn't speaking just yet.
Oh no, he was referring to what you had said before, that quote. Right. Laura, you just gave me such a super huge, and Jorge, you just really filled that in. There's, by the way, the side conversation about epistemy and ontology. And I know ontology because I studied it when I was young. Epistemy, I don't know yet. So I'm going to Google that.
It's epistemology. Epistemology.
Oh, it's epistemology. Do you know what that is? What is epistemology? Oh,
vaguely. I vaguely, yes. Epistemology is essentially, there's a whole, we talk about this a lot, and it's kind of like you go around and round and round in all of these different little segments, or let's just say, different components of empirical academic work. And it's a theory of knowledge based on its relevant or relative to its methods, its validity, and its scope. So it's like this theory of knowledge. Let's say, because theory can't be proven; it can only be disproven. That's a fact. Theory is not fact. Theory can only be disproven. And so when we think about our theory of knowledge, so a doctor of philosophy, a PhD, that means I have a doctor of philosophy in child development and family studies. Okay, so that's a philosophy. That's a way of thinking about the world. So epistemology is that theory of knowledge. So how do we come about it? And based on its methods, its validity, and its scope. So it's an investigation of what distinguishes justified belief from opinion. So it's vague. I am not the expert in this. All I know is that I earned a degree in a very limited area of study. And so when it comes down to this type of the definitions and all that, I can only give you a bare basis. I would need an epistemologist. I would need an epistemologist to have understand the epistemology, which is the.
Can you say epistemology like 5 times fast?
Epistemology. Yeah.
You are awesome. I don't think I could.
I think there might be someone in the. Let me read off some of these comments that we have in the LinkedIn, if I may. We got Tapas. Tapas is making some comments. Epistemology and ontology concepts in lateral thinking. If I may go back just slightly. He's saying Jorge's saying some things as well. Tapas learns by asking questions through the Socratic method. We definitely have an academic here. Uses epistemology. And Adrian has commented, you must be open to learn, and that may mean checking your ego at the door. I love that. Oh my God. Mitchell, I was thinking of you regarding, not you about ego, but about changing one's mind. Yeah, talk about that later for sure. Not you changing your mind, just in general. I thought, that'd be a great conversation for us to have. Just ongoing some of those, Tapas is a chief executive officer at IAS Research. Okay, that's said. Boom, mic drop.
Well, super cool. Well, hey, thank you for joining us. You got me thinking in a different direction, and once again I'll still Google epistemology and learn more about that. But got me thinking in a direction before when you were speaking, and I still how do I know if I'm right? Because that's, by the way, 2 of the components associated with being credible is having the intent and commitment to do and I'm going to double quote for those who are on Clubhouse just listening, do the right thing. So what's the right thing? Now, Laura, you got me, you gave me this massive aha moment when you said something, I don't know if I'm right until later on, maybe after I'm dead, which by the way, and that got me thinking about the word legacy. Right. And the thing that's interesting about legacy, I interviewed 6 people on legacy. One of them being Marshall Goldsmith and a bunch of others. And it was a great series. We actually have a book on legacy. And there's one thing I learned about legacy that I didn't know before I did the interviews. And most people think legacy is what you put in a place that you're able to put your name on a building of an academic institution, like legacy. But what every one of the interviewers said, and it was very consistent, legacy is who you are and how you live today. It's how people reflect on who you are and what they talk about when you're not in the room. And so going back to, and this is what the aha moment, how do you know if you're right? And I think the answer is because you're living your legacy from your core values. What are your core values? They're represented by the frequency that come up with your CPOP. Like if you actually are living in frequency, you're living your legacy today, right now. Now I have to figure out how to put that in English because I'm looking at your faces. I'm like, yeah, interesting. But I have to put that in a heart way, not a head way. Yeah, that's interesting. Jorge, did that hit at all?
You put it into some high level. You say that I was deep, and you.
I did a deep thing, man. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, that I love it. That is. But I am trying to digest that. I give me a moment, and if you, Laura, wants to get in, John, please.
Oh, I'm not hearing you. It's so interesting. Sometimes I hear you. Now I can hear you.
Okay. I missed what he said. What did you say? Something about the look on my face? Oh
no, he just asked if you wanted to contribute to if you had interpreted the comment I had regarding living your legacy, and that you're and right or wrong is based on essentially the frequency, your CPOC.
Well, can you define CPOC for me in 10 words or less?
Yeah, CPOC is tested recorded possibilities.
And I can understand. That was so on a different level. No one can understand what that means.
I know. Thank you for asking.
Seriously though, I don't know necessarily what If it, I mean, it could. I don't want to be right, like to say you're wrong. It's legacy could be the frequency. There's we've had major tornadoes here this morning, so I have sirens going off. So if I need to go off mute or take myself off, please understand. Legacy could be when the resonance that stays in the room after I leave. It could be the aura that remains after I leave my sitting place and then move on. It could be the feeling that someone has when I leave the room, or what is said about me after when I'm not there. It could mean the affect, the impact that I have on every single person, good or bad, right or wrong, indifferent. It doesn't matter what is. What matters is what is, not what I deem as good or bad. The imprint, the effect that I have well after I'm gone, because right now you're impacting me. You are impacting. I've looked forward to this the whole week, and I've been procrastinating and submitting that book chapter because I'm like, oh my God, I want to talk to Mitchell about this. And yes, and that's my downfall. So I've recognized it. But see, that's the thing. You've impacted me. I'm not saying that you're making me do stuff. You're making me do saboteur. You're making me self-sabotage. That's not what I mean. Because you can see, like, I've been procrastinating on submitting my book chapter because I can't wait to talk to Mitchell about this, and I want to have better understanding of it before I submit it.
Wow.
That's self-sabotage. But you're not doing that to me. You're not making me feel, do, think, or say anything. I'm doing that. And so your legacy, because of our previous interaction, Jorge, that's same for you as well. I knew I was going to see you and talk to you this morning. The fact that I've had those experiences with you and I felt that way based on our interactions together, I was looking forward. And in addition to that, based on how I feel, my interpretation of our previous experiences, I've carried that with me up to this point, and that has influenced every single conversation and my way of being in the world with every single other person, including my cat. That's with me. It stays with me. So it's not a causation. It could be a correlation, but then there's all the other indirect variables that come into play, and all those other experiences. It's like a web. It's like okay, you touch me, I got a ball of yarn right now. Okay, I'm gonna hold on to that ball of yarn. And while I'm holding on to that, there were 3 other people who were in that experience. Because you touched me, I'm holding on the resonance of what you said to me, let's say last Saturday. I'm holding on to that, not holding, like clinching, like it stays with me. It makes an impact. I'm holding on to that ball of yarn, right? There's 3 other people I come into contact with. They're holding on to a piece of that yarn, that ball too. Little slack. I toss it up. They're just holding on to a piece of it, but I got the ball. Okay, they get a little slack. I'm throwing up. The next person I come into, then they're holding on to that piece, and then every single person that they interact with, because of what I had experienced from you. So there's a little slack because no one, I could bring it back to you, but then that's not even. This is going way out there. The thing about it is that we never know the impact that we make on the world based on just one slight interaction that we have with one person. It always brings me back to the Dalai Lama. I didn't come up with this. If you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. We all matter. And if I don't want to get bit by that mosquito, I've had experiences with mosquitoes in the past. So I'm going to buy a sleeping bag or a tent, which protects me from that. So you see what I mean? The legacy of that one mosquito, I've chosen to change my behavior because I can't change that mosquito. Mosquito's gone. I can't change the other mosquitoes that are to come. I change me. I choose me. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, I guess, Jorge, we did get deep, and Laura, that is also deep. Fascinating.
I don't know if the people listen to Laura in the Clubhouse. I am having a little bit of problems to listen to her, but I don't know if it's my side. But keeping going into that discussion, I really love that because it's how you build that engagement, and maybe it's another word that we need to add, because in the conversations that we have been developing in the last weeks, this point, and you say something, I say something, and Mitchell say something, and all of us are participating and start to generate some synergy, some interchange, and we are setting up already some framework in how we can develop conversations about the specific subjects. This subject of learning today is an amazing one. It's something that I guess we can talk about that forever, because it's something that we never are going to learn everything that we need to learn. how to learn. And that's something that everybody say we need to learn how to learn. That's a continuous experience, and you never should stop.
I don't know if there was so much echo right there. I could hear some words, but I couldn't hear a question.
Oh, I don't know if there was a question. Jorge, it felt like you stopped mid-sentence.
I just talk with the idea just to give, okay, we have been building an engagement environment. We're doing things, and that is something that we are learning how to build that kind of environments to have these good discussions. It's something that in order to design a way how we can keep a good conversations, we need to figure out how to generate that minimal conditions to keep that level of engagement. And that is where your legacy concept and saying you have a talk with some person, you start having some connection, that connection start to be built and mature using time, because it's something that we cannot do that in a microwave oven, that we just put an idea and that's everything done. I don't know if that clarified my comment in that sense.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So let's just for a second, when you're, let's look at this last week. What have you done? Because you've got this new company you've got moving forward, which I really like, which is definitely along the lines of what we're talking about. What have you done to create that common language among those members that you've talked with, that company you're doing? Like, are you guys on track? Obviously you're having fun, but what have you done that you consider credible, that would be valuable? Like, it's because in essence, you're living your legacy by doing that next new thing.
Oh, that's a very good question. Is how this thing, I have that idea for a long time. I start taking some training or some learning about how to develop things in the cryptocurrency, how to use the DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organization concept. And while I was taking that lecture, I start talking about I want to make something to monetize my knowledge. And I create some ideas. The ideas start to get some feedback from people. And one person in the group say, why we don't build a prototype? And that is in one group. In the other group that I am in the Hacker Dojo group, I was talking about the same subject, and was a guy that is talking about how to build your information diet. Information diet is something that you need to have in order to learn, because you know what you know, and you know where you want to go, and you build some gap. And how you fill that gap is you need to have in the middle something that this guy called that information diet. And in that sense, I became to be a connector between two different groups, one that has a way to describe the idea, and another group that we have the capability to build as a tool. And that start to generate some conversations in that direction. I have been talking in each of these groups are part of a larger groups, and we start talking about what we are doing. And now we have people that are interested in how to test the prototype we're building, and help us to develop the scenarios how it could be validated. And that is a learning process that you know very much in the Silicon Valley. That happens all the time. But that is the very first time that I am watching how this thing happens, not only make it happens. I don't know if I explained that, because usually you are worrying when you are building things, you are worried how to build it, and you don't take note how the people is reacting, how things are performing in a way that may work or not work. And that is the serendipity part. And when building new ideas, a lot of things happens because the people do it, and nobody knows how to replicate that. How do you think that? You have been in the Mitchell in the Silicon Valley for a long, long time. You have seen this situation for thousands of times. Usually is we're just making things happen. And a lot of people is trying to say, I want to make happen. And if we go back into the original conversation that say how you build the capability to make things happen, not to think how things could be done.
So is the focus then for you is to take people out of the want to be entrepreneur to a let's be an entrepreneur?
Let's be got to be an entrepreneur is much more aggressive than that.
It's interesting to me because did you ever read the book E-Myth, Michael Gerber's book? Because there's some people who want to be entrepreneurs, but they haven't been trained and they don't think like an entrepreneur. So is that the audience? Oh, and Laura's saying me, look at me.
But that's interesting because I could read the question or the point of view that you presented, Michelle, in two ways. In the people that want to be an entrepreneur, and in it is a lot of people that is already entrepreneur and they do not realize they are already entrepreneurs. In the small business, when you lost your job and you start doing something by yourself, you become to be an entrepreneur. Not necessarily by decision, is by condition or by the context because you need to survive. And that is a lot of the things how a small business started. They start doing things and they start doing business, but they don't realize that they are the business itself. And the other group is the startup mindset that you say, I want to create a company. If you go to the mindset of Silicon Valley, you want to build something very big and you start very small. And things start to happen in the right way. You get the connections, you get the idea, you get the prototype, you start talking with people, the people start looking to buy the product. You start to build the products, you run out without money, you reach investors, the investors help you to have the resources to keep going. And that is a complete synergy that happening. And here in the Valley happens much more common than anywhere else in the world, because in a lot of places when you don't have the resources, you want to go to the bank and the bank say how much is the value of your house, and I give you a credit for that despite of whatever you are going to be doing. The difference here in the Silicon Valley is you talk with people and say, hey, that idea is great, I have access to the market, or I have resources to put it there, and I don't care how much is the value that you have in the financial capability. If they are looking in how to potentialize your capability despite that you don't have resources.
I missed that last sentence. Could you repeat that, please?
Sorry?
Oh,
could you repeat that last sentence?
Laura would like you to share that last sentence.
Okay, yeah. It is usually the way that I do, I think, is in the Silicon Valley, the people get an idea, start generating the product, find customers. When you find customers, you start running without money, and at that time you get resources from investors. That the investors wants you to succeed because the idea is good, not because you have financial resources to put it like the banks. And in the banks they say, if your idea is not good, I stay with your house and I get back my money. The investors here, they take the risk. That's the reason of the investment, venture capital. They take the risk that if they don't succeed, everybody lost money. But if you succeed, everybody gets a lot of money.
Jorge, I'd like to ask a question that Tapas asked in LinkedIn. And I'd like the three of us to give an answer, and then we could wrap up for the day. Would that be okay? Permission for that?
Sure.
So he quoted Confucius, and he said, "I'd love to have a comment." And the question was, knowledge is, or the statement of Confucius is, knowledge is only valuable when it can be used to solve problems. Because that's so, by the way, just so as I'm listening to that, it's so in line with what you're doing, Jorge. Tell me what you think about that. And then Dr. Laura, you
really
can be
agree
next.
very much in that sense. Is I am complete thinking in that sense. Is knowledge is when you transform ideas into action, in something that happens, and that happens is to solve problems. That is the most common way of doing things. You have a you identify that the audience has a problem, you find the solution, you build the solution, and that solution is based in what? In the knowledge that you have about the problem, in the knowledge that you have about how to build the solution, in the knowledge in how you put that solution into the market. And that's completely true. Otherwise, you could say, I have tons of books on my side, I have hundreds of patents on my side. If they are not applied to fulfill a mission, that is information, is not knowledge.
And that, just so you know, when you replay that and re-listen to that, that's part of the ideology of the approach that this software company that you're focused on, or this company you're focused on, should do. I mean, it is in alignment. Right, in terms of, I look for consistency, like that's in your framework.
Absolutely.
Laura, what do you think? Did you hear the question?
Or well, kind of a little convoluted as the further away we went to it, went away from it.
So for you, can you comment on a Confucius saying that knowledge is only valuable when it can be used to solve problems?
No, I don't think that's the case. I met my best friend Danny in kindergarten, and he was my best friend for 12 years. Does that mean that I solve the world's problem? I think that's a strong. I would say knowledge is only useful. Well, I know that the sky is blue. Am I trying to solve a problem? Well, yeah, I got to solve my day. I got to solve my problem and figure out my day. How's that going down? I know my cat's in pain. Does that solve a problem? Sometimes I know to take him to the vet. I guess knowledge. Okay, so now, this is another conversation. All right, so if knowledge is learned in the school system, who has the right and who has the ability and the power to dictate what's taught in schools, meaning that what do we understand about history, for example, is accurate, and what actually took place, for example. So knowledge is only useful for the solutions of problems. Okay, I know the Holocaust happened. I know racism is present, and I know that I'm a white woman, and so I have that knowledge. If I'm not part of the solution, I'm part of the problem. So I have that knowledge. I'm aware. Am I doing anything about it? Supporting your comment. So then do I stay ignorant? Now, if I have that information, I have knowledge of it, I'm not using it, well, that's just plain old stupid. And I'm agreeing with you, Jorge. If I have that knowledge and I'm not doing anything about it, and then there comes a question of what needs to be done and who has the right to. Oh, they could go in so many directions. You all ask these amazing questions. I love. We could go on for days and hours just about this stuff. I love it. They're deep. They're not rote, and they're mindfully crafted. I love it.
So, it's interesting. I'm looking at that, and I there's a part of me, because I end up having 10 to 20 meetings on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And there are occasional people that I run into that have a significant amount of knowledge in multiple areas. And when you jump into one of those areas, they put on that area hat and they just can really apply that knowledge in that area. Okay, now let's step back. But how can we determine that if they jump into a particular area, that was the right area to jump into? And so that I'm going to say the applied knowledge without wisdom, right? So when you're applying knowledge, so I just want to, I'd like to have a conversation with Confucius and sort of, sort of ask some of these questions, because remember, at the moment, we all have access to every bit of knowledge on the planet. So it's the wisdom and application of that knowledge, and it's possible that the implication of solving problems is solving problems in a right, my double hands, in the right way, right? So solving problems in the right way is, we need to have knowledge, we need to understand it, we need to bring ourselves up to speed, and then we need to solve it. The absolute statement, knowledge is only valuable when it can be used to solve problems, to me I don't like that statement as is, because sometimes knowledge is, I was on a call this morning, somebody announced their 70th birthday party. Okay, that's knowledge. I now know something. By the way, your cat's amazing, Laura. So that's knowledge. Now, do I apply it to solve a problem? Not necessarily. I didn't know he was 70. I thought he was 60. Right? I'm like, so the next time I talk to him, I'm like, I have a different respect for him, so I'll apply things differently. But it's an interesting, or I'll probably send a special birthday card. I don't know if I'm solving a problem, but it's knowledge, and it's not useless. All right. So anyhow, that's interesting. Hey, we should wrap up. I got a call coming up. It turns out when I do 3 back-to-back meetings on a Saturday, it's always fascinating. For those who were active in their questions on LinkedIn and Facebook, thank you. I'd love to get questions out of YouTube. If they came in, I didn't see them. So I'd love to figure out how we get the audience to be asking questions there as well. Next week, I will be in Nashville, and Dr. Laura has volunteered to run the room. And I am so honored. Jorge, if you're possible to be around, to support her and be there. And she probably won't do the StreamYard thing. And that makes sense, because that's through my platform. So for those what I think what I should do is, maybe I'll make an announcement of it in the places that we were streaming, and put the link to next week's Clubhouse. Thank you, Laura. So that was knowledge, which then I get to apply into wisdom. So I'll be in Nashville at the 100 Coaches organization, meeting with the 100 coaches. I'm excited about. Oh, she's dropping something. I think it's like dropping the mic here. I got one of these to say, hey, let's drop the mic. Okay, drop the mic. Okay. And so Laura, I'm very excited to see how it is and how things go. And I'll be back 2 weeks from now, and I'm honored. How about we do a quick wrap up? Laura, do you want to go first this time, and then Jorge, and then I'll summarize.
Super happy to be here. Thank you for allowing me to just converse. And if knowledge is power, I was listening to some Schoolhouse Rock this morning. I love Schoolhouse Rock. And if knowledge is power, then I'm a flower who's growing, and I'm going to take this is your legacy, guys and gals, whoever you are in the world. You've been part of this. I'm going to take this with me today, along with Carter, and it's going to. I got a feeling today's going to be a great day, and tonight's going to be a good night. So thank you for that. If anything, you're the legacy, and I feel you, and I'm taking your vibe with me. Thanks.
That's so cool. Thank you. Jorge, what do you think?
Well, I agree. Today has been a great day, and it's going to be a much better day. And we keep going to learning more and more. And that is the greatest pleasure we can have. Thank you for that conversation, and thank you for the time for sharing ideas and bounce it back and forth all the time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And same here. It's always fun to do this. Thank you for being here and showing up. And what I'd like to encourage you. So today, what was valuable for me, huge aha moment. I'm tying together 3 different threads into a common, and I'll think more about how to articulate it, but it's the living your legacy today. It's the frequency of your CPOP, of your values being living out loud and determining right or wrong by living within the framework, that container you take of how you're living. And I see it. I'm a visual, and also I'm a little, sometimes I spend a little bit too much time in the head. So I'm a visual and I'm thinking about this, and I'm going to figure out how best I'll take one stab at it. So listen, at the end of your life, you don't want to say to yourself, I wish I did that. I wish I did something else. If you could articulate who you are and how you show up, how you serve others in 10 words or less, and you wear that as a compass, it helps you make better decisions. If you're making better decisions, you're demonstrating better behavior. People are seeing integrity in who you are and how you show up. And if you can do that, you now have a better way to give feedback to yourself on right and wrong. Am I doing things that are within this container that I've structured for myself? Am I living my legacy, and can I see that? You know, that's how it's at the moment. That's how I'd say it. Let me see if I can clip the. I did a clip so I could share me. We'll see if that comes up. But hey, thank you for this. Thanks for showing up. Laura, will see you guys on Clubhouse next week, and I will. I look forward to continual engagement in this channel and other things we're doing. And I, like I said, I really love really love the engagement on the other social media platforms. Okay, so let's stop the broadcast everywhere first. See you guys on all the channels we're playing, and I'm stopping